If you've ever felt pressure to give up on your dream to adopt from foster care and you felt like you had to do something else, then you're definitely going to want to hear this story. So cozy up, get yourself a cup of coffee or tea, and let's meet Allison. Now, when I met Allison and her husband about 3 months ago, they were foster parents in Illinois.
We're licensed foster parents through a private agency in Illinois. We had been foster parents for about 1.5 years and had 2 placements, one short-term, one long-term, who we still actually have with us, but his goal is reunification.
So when Allison and her husband became foster parents, this is what they were hoping for.
When we started with foster care, our hope has always been to eventually adopt, knowing that we would have placements that would go home to their parents.
So Allison and her husband, they wanted to foster to adopt. And there is a difference between foster to adopt, fostering, and foster care adoption. And I'm gonna put up the video right there where I explain the differences between them. So if you're one of those families and you really have a heart to adopt, older children from foster care, it is really important that you let your agency know. And that's actually exactly what Allison and her husband did.
Our agency knew that our hope was to adopt a child whose rights had been terminated from the beginning. We were really clear with that from the get-go, that we wanted to foster and we wanted to help families reunify, but that we also wanted to be a permanent home for a child who needed one.
So when Allison and her husband were finally ready to start taking in kids whose parents' rights had been terminated, this is what their agency told them.
Our agency just kept telling us that there were not adoptable kids in the foster care system in Illinois. But we knew that there were kids in Illinois who couldn't go home to their parents. And so we were just really frustrated with our agency telling us that there weren't. And we really were struggling with trying to figure out how to kind of bridge that gap.
Have any of you heard that from your agency? It's actually really unbelievable and really, honestly, disheartening to know how many people actually hear that from the foster care agency. So on the one hand, the state tells you, hey, there are so many kids that need to be adopted. We need to do something about it, right? But then it seems like as soon as you step out to do something and you actually want to adopt these kids from foster care, there are so many barriers that are put in place that actually make it very difficult to do the thing that everybody's saying that you're needing to do, right? Well, so when Allison and her husband, they got this news from their agency, they had no idea how to climb this, what seemed like this insurmountable wall of how do we actually adopt kids out of foster care in Illinois.
We were just feeling so lost and confused. We were trying to look into other avenues of adoption because we were being told that there weren't children who needed adoptive homes in Illinois. So we were looking into infant adoption and just trying to kind of figure out what our options were. And it was just very confusing, frankly. There's so many different options available and, Googling can only do so much.
So how do you go from that to starting your adoption in less than 3 months? Well, that's when Allison and her husband joined me in my Adoption Success Accelerator program, and we laid out their adoption success ladder. And pretty quickly, Allison and her husband found out exactly what they needed to do to adopt from foster care.
I think the adoption program was the game changer for us. It taught us what questions to ask, and that's how we found out that our agency was specialized. We never would have found that out if we hadn't learned the right questions to ask our agencies. And we just, when we started fostering, we had no idea that agencies were different in that way. So just learning the types of questions to ask has been far and away the best thing that's come out of this program for us.
So in only 12 weeks, Allison and her husband, they figured out they went from being completely confused to knowing exactly what they needed to do to adopt a child from foster care in Illinois. And that, my friends, included firing their current agency.
So since joining the program, we have decided to switch agencies. We're in the process of getting our license switched over. And we do feel really confident that we will have a child or a sibling group placed with us whose parental rights have been terminated.
Such a great story, right? But you know what? Not every family gets to have the happy ending that Allison and her husband did. As a matter of fact, a lot of families end up wasting years and wasting thousands of dollars trying to figure out how to adopt. And so if Allison and her husband had not joined the program, they would have been in the same boat. They actually were thinking about taking a totally different path that was not what they were passionate about, and they were poised to lose about $10,000 to $25,000 in the process.
If we had not joined the program, we were actually in the process of partnering with our agency's infant adoption program because it just seemed like that was the only option available. That's kind of the impression that we were given when we were talking with our agency, kind of because we didn't know these right questions to ask. And so we had already paid and done the orientation. We were like, at the time that we joined the program, we were 3 weeks away from doing some of the classes and paying even more. I think in total, it would have been between $15,000 and $20,000 that we would have paid to do an infant adoption, which is not, like I mentioned, that's not the path that we wanted to do. We have always wanted to provide a home to older children or sibling groups. And so had we not joined this program, we would have been out quite a lot of money pursuing a path that didn't feel like the right fit for our family. So if you are hesitating about joining the program, I would say it is 1,000% worth your investment. I know it can feel hard to part with more money because adoption does seem like it's so expensive, but just learning the different facets of it makes such a difference in terms of how you feel. We were feeling so helpless and so confused. And, like I mentioned, we were going to go down a path that didn't feel like a right fit for us because we felt like it was our only option. And so learning about all of the different types of adoption that exist and learning about all the different players that are going to be involved in this process, and especially learning what questions that you need to ask when you're deciding, what route to go or what agency to license with. I mean, that is invaluable. And not only will it help you not make decisions out of fear, but it also just gives you a sense of I know what I'm doing and I'm not just scrambling trying to throw things together. So I couldn't recommend this program highly enough.
So if you are ready to save years and thousands of dollars in your adoption process, click that link below to apply to join the Adoption Success Accelerator program. I would love to meet you and talk to you more about how I can help you adopt successfully. Now, while you're down there, be sure to click that like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell button to be notified when I post a new video every week. Now, for more inspiration, click the link to that video right there where you can hear the story of another client of mine who went from being confused to adopting in less than 3 months. All right, thanks for watching, you guys. Bye-bye.